Chief Marketing Officer. Actually, skip that. They just changed my title. I'm the Chief Advancement Officer for Living Branches. It's very nice to be here with you today. Thank you for taking the time to come out and really explore a topic that I was just commenting that we all could benefit from. I am currently in a situation right now where our oldest son and his wife and their 18-month-old have moved back in with us, and which we really love the 18-month-old. The rest of them, you know, but he's worth it. But the amount of stuff that they brought with them is terrifying. And when you combine it with our stuff, I think we're overflowing. So I'm looking forward to getting some ideas about what we can do to tackle that. And through the years, this month, tomorrow is my 15th anniversary at Living Branches. I can't believe it. Woo! And in that time period, I have heard so many prospective residents talk about the fact that they just can't make the commitment yet because of the stuff and how the stuff is really holding them back and weighing them down. So I'm delighted that we're able to maybe help address some of those concerns. So I am going to why don't I introduce Jana Aldifer, who I think probably most of you know, but if not, Jana is our sales counselor here at Souderton Mennonite Homes. She's been with us for 2 years, year and a half, 2 years, same thing. She's doing a bang-up job. In fact, the maintenance department sometimes says to her, slow down, let apartments stay empty for a while because I can't do a turnover that fast, so, which is what we love to hear on our side. So Jana, why don't you tell us a little bit about the experience that we're going to have this morning?
Thank you. So we're all glad you could join us today for this special presentation with Jill Kearney. Jill is a frequent speaker on the topic of living your best life, especially in retirement, and she has entertained and empowered individuals locally, regionally, and nationally. She founded Specialty Moves by Design in the Lehigh Valley 16 years ago and has grown the company to 33 employees. They enjoy partnering with clients to get them where they want to be smoothly and efficiently. And they also believe that what they do is as much a ministry as it is a business. So welcome, Jill.
Thank you so much. Good morning. Good morning. Is there anybody here, just think for a minute, who feels like you have too much stuff at home? Some wildly waving hands. So know that while I have and my team have helped some 2,600 folks over the last 16 years learn how to downsize and live a better life where they want it to be, that none of us that does this work are perfect. And in fact, it's a whole lot easier for us to declutter your stuff than our own. And it's going to be a little bit of true confessions today. You're going to see pictures up here of my own house that my organization, my team, and I told them, I said, if you don't want to work on my project, it's fine. But if you're brave enough to come tackle my own house, then I would love to have you partner with me. So I have downsized twice in the past 3 years. So I did the first one, and I thought, wow, that was the big one. The first one's always the hardest. And then I got to where I was going. Oh, well, let me say, in the meantime, I sold my house because, that prices were all going up, and I thought, wow, what if it doesn't go higher? What if it goes lower? So I sold my house, and in the process, actually, through COVID, my mom had passed, our 2 dogs had passed, my daughters finally moved out. They haven't moved back in yet. And I had this big house with a basement full of stuff. And the house's rooms I wasn't using, they were full of stuff. And I said, this is ridiculous. I would like to be living smaller like all the people that we've helped. But I really had a dream, and I talked to a financial planner about it for 4 years. I said, I really want to live in a cottage on a sheep farm in Ireland. I know, crazy, right? So what did I do? I said, look, I'm not going to do something like that with a house full of stuff here, because they have all these ads for cheap Irish houses, which means there's no roof, there's no plumbing, it's in the middle of nowhere. If you want to do it, they'll give you some money to help, but it's not a lot. So I thought that's going to be a project if I do that. So I set a goal for 2022. I was going to be 64. And my financial planner kept my feet to the fire. So we're just coming out of COVID. That's the plan. The plan is 2022. How are you going to find this place? So I said, well, I think I need to get rid of mine first. So end of 2021, I said, I'm going to just move into an apartment temporarily and sell the house so I have the money, and then I'll figure out what I'm going to do. I felt like I was too young to move into a senior living community yet, and I wasn't sure where I was going to be, and I still had to look in Ireland. But with the grace of God, which is really what it took because it's a miracle it even happened, by December 20th of 2022, I had already sold my house, and I called my financial planner and I said, I found it, can you wire $350,000 over? And I bought my cottage on a sheep farm in Ireland, which is where I will be 2 weeks from right now when I land in Shannon. Yeah, it's very exciting. So why do I say that? So when I got to Ireland and I started meeting people, God put people in front of me constantly. I have got a tribe of friends over there in this tiny town of Dingle. Has anybody been to Ireland? Anybody been to Dingle? Way out at the end of the Dingle Peninsula, the 2,000 people, there's like kind of in the middle of nowhere. I've got this tribe of friends there that are just amazing. After 3 visits, I had enough friends to host a cottage warming party for 25 people. And I had a kitchen that had 2 upper cabinets, 4 drawers, and 1 base cabinet over here. And amazingly, I cooked for and fed 25 people with basically 3 cabinets and 4 drawers. Now, back in Pennsylvania, I had rented this lovely $2,700 a month luxury apartment with 4-foot tall cabinets and a big island with drawers and things. And do you think that was full or not full? It was full. And I had this party, and afterwards I said, what the heck do I have in all of those cabinets that I'd already downsized to, mind you, that I would need to host a party in Pennsylvania? And then I realized that on top of that, my apartment, even though it was 2-bedroom, 1,100 square feet, had the tiniest living room. I tried to have 8 people over, and we decided probably 6 was the most. So I had enough dishes in crystal and china. Don't hate me, I love my dishes. Anybody else love dishes and plates? I could feed 36 people. Problem is I can only get 8 of them in the apartment. And so I had a come to Jesus meeting. What am I doing? What did I have in 3 cabinets and 4 drawers in Ireland that allowed me to feed 25 people? And what do I have here? So that was my big moment. And that's when I started to say, you know what? I need to downsize again here on this side. Because obviously I don't need all that I have. So my first move was about 60% of what I owned, downsized. I kept about 40. And then I did another round, lost about another 10%. And now, as I get ready to head back to Ireland, I'm looking at these cabinets, which still have 3 place settings of china, thank you very much, that I've said, you know what, I just don't need this. And somebody else could be using it. So that's my story. You're going to see pictures of my former basement. Why do I do this? Because I want you to know that how it got the way it is not the issue. You might be the accidental hoarder. That's what they call it in the industry. Accidental hoarder is the one who says, oh my gosh, mom just died. We need to empty the house really fast. My house isn't big enough, but wow, yours is. So how about we bring it to your house, because then you also have that shed, and you have a bigger garage than me, and you actually have a basement. And so he all of a sudden is hoarding mom's stuff because we guilted him into taking it, right? Or you had a lot of kids that came and then they left, and amazingly their stuff didn't. You know? And so this is what we're going to talk about. We're not going to worry about how it got there. We're going to talk about where we want to be and how we're going to get there. All right? So no guilt. That's my first rule. No guilt. You don't have to explain it. You don't have to blame it. It is what it is. And we want to make a plan for how we're going to get to where we are. So let's talk about the joy of a decluttered home. Oh, by the way, each of you, when you came in, should have been given a little sheet of paper, a half sheet of paper. This is private. It's for yourself. There's a date on it. I'm going to ask you to fill it out. If you didn't do it already today, that's fine. Take it with you. This is a snapshot in time of where you are today. So it says that in my dreams I would live blank. That could be in Ireland. It could be clutter-free. It could be a Souderton Mennonite. Ooh, that was a good one, wasn't it? Did you like that? That was pretty. I'm pretty slick with that. And then it says where, doing what, by when, and with, and it could be your cat, or it could be your spouse, or it could be your son or daughter, whatever. I want you to think about that, because in order to tackle this stuff, we have to have a big enough why. Because if all this stuff is fitting in your house right now and it's not hurting anybody, then it's easy to say, well, I don't really need to do anything because it's not really a problem where it is. But the why comes in, that becomes the incentive. So for me it was, I'd really love to have a cottage in Ireland, which means I need to sell my house first. And so how am I going to figure this out? And I needed then, that became my why. I have a deadline, I agreed to, 2022, going to buy this cottage. That became my why. You got to figure out what your why is. Maybe it's you're tired of the steps. Maybe the yard is too big. Maybe it's too far away from where you want to be. I don't know. Everybody's different, right? So we're going to talk about that. So know that your home should be the antidote to stress, not the cause of it. There was an AARP study done a few years ago that said 80% of 80-year-olds are stressed or very stressed about the condition of their homes. Wow. That's sad, isn't it? To say that at 80 years old, you've lived a life, you've got wisdom, you've got time, hopefully you've got some financial freedom, and what you're thinking about all day is how your house looks. What a waste. I don't think God put us on the earth to worry about our stuff all day long. So think about that. Do you want to be there when you're 80? So here's a picture I took down at the Jersey Shore. It was a Tuesday in the fall. It was a warm day, and there was nobody there because kids were back in school. So imagine you're sitting there. What are you hearing? What do you hear? Is anybody? The ocean waves. What else? Seagulls, right? Yeah, maybe the breeze. What are you feeling on your skin? Salt water. Maybe what else? Warm sunshine. How are we feeling about now? Get me off the beach, he said. Okay, he's not a beach person. Somebody else. My mom was always like that. I don't like the sand. We feeling pretty relaxed? You're there, it's calm, it's quiet. Yeah? Kind of empty, but it's calm, it's quiet. What if you're sitting there on the beach and I just tap you on the head, just gently, and float you up off the sand, and then I drop you right in the middle of Times Square, New York City. Now how are you feeling? Now what do you see? Noise. She said noise. I can see the noise, I can hear the noise, right? Hearing what? Sirens? Cars? How many people are there? Too many. That's the answer people say. Now I have to tell you that I like being at the shore if it's quiet, and I like being at Times Square for a little bit of time. I couldn't live there. But if you had to think about how you feel when you walk in your house, does it feel more like this, or does it feel more like this? And I ask you that, that's just a really quick lesson to show you that most people say this kind of stresses them out. It can be exciting for a short time, but most people don't want to live in that every day. And if you said, yeah, this feels a little more stressful, know that I've just proven my whole point. I could end this right now and say, you've got your why. Your why is because mess causes stress. It's so well documented. There's lots of psychologists have done studies. So if you don't have any other reason to deal with your stuff, know that it's good for your health to get rid of it. So let's talk about how we do that. So there's an industry called senior move managers. That's what we do. And it was a new industry, only 25 years old. It was created because of us boomers. Because most of us over time, we either stayed in the same house and continued to fill it, or we upsized. You got a new job, get a bigger house. Added a couple kids, get a bigger house. Have you noticed that realtors now call them starter homes? What does that imply? It's going to get bigger. We're going to start you small because you're going to get bigger. Do you remember the times when grandma started in that house, added all her kids got married, grandkids came back, grandma didn't keep buying a bigger house, right? Interesting what we've done, created starter homes and then the other homes. So know that when we are talking about boomers today, most of us who are moving because our houses don't work for us anymore. We've hit a season of our lives where it grew too big, it's too full of stuff, it has too many steps, the yard is too big, it doesn't make sense for the season of life that we're in. It's not, I would rather not say it's because his hip hurts and he can't cut the grass, or because she doesn't like dragging the laundry up and down the stairs because her shoulder hurts. We could say that, but why don't we just say the house doesn't fit the season of life anymore? Isn't that better? Blame the house. That's a whole lot better, right? Because that house is going to fit somebody's life. It's just not ours. So if you decide, like, I want to downsize, now you're sitting here now going, oh my gosh, now here's an issue. You all laughed when you saw that picture. That's Kylie. She's one of our move managers. And she happened to be in my garage when she said, hey, Jill. To which I knew this was not going to be good because we were decluttering. And I said, what, Kylie? She says, come here. And she comes to this talk. And she said, because you'll see in a minute, I'll ask you, how many spatulas does anybody need? And she goes, how many hammers does anybody need? I said, how many do I have? And she says, 5. And a mallet. And she said, how many do you need? And I said, 2. She goes, why do you need 2? I need a light one if I'm going to hang art and a heavy one if I have to hit something hard. And she said, you're going to an apartment with a maintenance guy. I said, I need 2. Then she said, what about the mallet? I said, I like the mallet. She said, you're going to take a mallet? And I said, yes. And she goes, why? And I said, what do you do with a mallet? I go, you use a mallet when you want to hit something without hurting it. And she goes, what are you going to hit without hurting it? What did you use it for? I said, we bought it because I love to play badminton. That was one of the things I liked growing up. And I wanted a badminton set up in our backyard. And so my husband got it up. He's growling, grumbling, this thing, trying to get it in. So I went and bought him a mallet. So it's easy to hit those little pegs in, so it keeps it from falling over. Which he then said a week later, you do realize that I have to take the thing apart to cut the grass. So what he did when he pulled it out, he goes, oh shoot, it fell over. And so it never went back up again. So that mallet was used for 4 steaks one time 10 years ago. And I was still trying to justify why it should go with me, probably because it was never used and it was in great shape. Do you find yourself having those same conversations? Well, of course, there's nothing wrong with it. I might need it. So what I did is I made a deal with myself that if I downsize too much, I gave myself permission to go buy another one. How about that for a conversation ender? So decluttering is how many spatulas do you need? We find 12 in your drawer. How many spatulas do you need? 2? I like the big one now. I like a small one that fits in a jar. How many screwdrivers do we need? A lot. A lot. I know. And why do we have so many? If you assume that maybe there's 3 sizes, teeny tiny, average size, and maybe a heavy duty one. Well, yeah, and the Phillips and flatheads. So let's just talk with flathead. I know, and I've got all the tools too, because I can argue all those, why I need those too. But why do we end up with like 8 flathead screwdrivers? Probably because we couldn't find a screwdriver, because they weren't put back where they were supposed to be. And so it's time to get a new one. You need a screwdriver. Nobody can find it. Who took the screwdriver? So what do? You drive down to the hardware store and you buy another one. Until you start decluttering your house, and all of a sudden you go, wow, I have a lot of screwdrivers. And that goes with a lot of other things. So decluttering is saying it's not that the thing isn't useful, but you don't need as many as you have. So we're going to eliminate quantity. Downsizing is different. So downsizing, I've talked to people, we've helped people move into 300 square foot personal care rooms. We've moved people into 4,000 square foot, 55 plus cottages with 2,000 square foot walkout basements that are unfinished and filled with shelves. And I said, what are you doing? You're doing this, you're hoping this is your last move. You just told your kids you put 2,500 square foot of stuff in your basement that you're going to have to drag up the stairs. Crazy. Anyway, we've done this for what? For both sizes, and for every single space that we've moved people into, there was a place to sleep, a place to bathe, a place to prep even a little bit of food, a place to sit at a table, and usually some kind of a living space, with a sofa, maybe TV, recliner, something like that. So when we downsize, it's basically saying, what do I use today in all those categories, knowing that you may have 4 bedrooms, but you're probably not sleeping in all 4 of them. You may have a living room, and it might be the one with, remember when Grandma had plastic on the furniture? Yeah. So you probably have a family room and a living room, maybe a rec room in the basement. And then, so how many are you actually using? So that's when we say, I'm going to take one of these, one of these, one of these, one of these, gather those, and take those with me to my new place, and that's downsizing. It doesn't necessarily mean you're doing without. It's just you're now cutting off all that stuff that you're not using anyway. Does that make sense? So if you're having a boohoo moment about, oh, this is going to be so horrible to downsize because I'm going to miss all my stuff, know that you're already doing without your stuff. You're not using most of your stuff anyway. Okay. What makes downsizing so difficult? Does that look like you? Sitting here, this whole thought of doing this? Well, in the past, if we got bigger houses, if we've moved in the past, how many of you have not moved in 50 years or more? A few of you. Yeah. I've moved 11 times as an adult, so I'm kind of the opposite. I know, it's a lot, isn't it? In the past, if we moved, usually you move to a bigger house. If you move to a bigger house every time, all you have to do is call a mover and say, look, I'm at work, I'm going to come home, you're going to come pack this day. They come through, they plow through, everything goes in boxes, wherever it was. I did 3 corporate moves, 40 boxes of kitchen miscellaneous. Yeah, the last move, went from Pittsburgh to the Lehigh Valley, I had a 2-year-old, and all I needed to know was where's the sippy cup, where's her bibs, where's all this stuff, and I had 40 boxes of kitchen miscellaneous. So if it doesn't fit in the house when you do that, where does it go? Might go to storage, but before storage, where does it go? Basement, garage, right? By the way, anybody park on your driveway? Anybody park on your driveway because your garage is full? Oh, hearing some noise. Guess what? You might think you're fooling the neighbors. I just my truck's a little big for the garage. It feels better outside. They all know your garage is full of stuff. It's why you're the only one that has it out there. Well, in some neighborhoods, I look at neighborhoods now, my daughter moved down south, North Carolina, and most of them don't have basements. All the cars are out. And every once in a while, the garage doors open, and the garages are full. These are younger people. If you always move bigger, it's not a catastrophe on the move day because they're going to fill your basement and fill your garage. The problem becomes when you move smaller, because this may be the first time that you ever move smaller. Because at that point, you don't have any place for things to go if it doesn't fit in the house or the apartment or wherever you're moving to. And the movers, I actually saw up in Emmaus one day, I drove past a house. They were doing a move, they were unpacking, and it was, I don't know, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I drove back later after I'd been out with friends, and it was 9 o'clock, lights are on, there's still the truck is there. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's furniture in the front yard. I thought, what a mess, something's going on here. The next day I had to drive past there again to get to a client's house. Guess what? Furniture's still in the front yard. Apparently the movers quit sometime after 9 o'clock at night, probably fed up. And the stuff's in the front yard because it didn't fit. So you can't do that. If you come here, I'm pretty sure here, Jana, that if your stuff doesn't fit in your apartment, you're not allowed to leave it in the front yard or the hallway. Pretty sure. Not a good way to... Yeah, well, the big lobby. Okay, keep an eye on this guy up here. So yeah, go. So anyway, you end up with an emergency. You didn't want to downsize fast. Guess what? It gets downsized really fast because the mover then says, I'll take everything that didn't fit and I'll go drop it off at donation or trash, but you don't know which ones didn't fit. So, for the first time you're going smaller, not bigger, you need to figure out what 30% is going with you. Might be 50% for some of you, but I know I'm seeing some faces like, ooh, that does not look like a big number. But it's probably all you need, and it might be all you want. So, when folks are downsizing, there's usually 4 questions. Now, I know some of you are on a waiting list. Some of you are not moving tomorrow, but I'm going to ask you to imagine that you are going to, at some point in the future, probably move out of the house that you're in. And if you are, there's 4 questions that most people ask. Number 1 is, what can I keep? So for those of you who are feeling like that 30% is feeling like a little bit too tight, go, I want you to figure this out. You may have the one the question about what can I keep. We're going to talk about that in a minute. The next one is, what do I do with the leftovers? Anybody more concerned about what to do with the leftovers than you are about what you're keeping? Yep, I'm seeing nodding. What do we not want in our driveway that the kids are ready to order tomorrow? I call it the dreaded D word. What are your kids going to do? If you die in your house tomorrow, what are your kids going to put in your driveway on Saturday? Yep. Most of us don't want our leftovers to go in a dumpster. I think we figure like if we're dead, maybe we wouldn't know. But if you're alive, you don't want your stuff going in the dumpster. Next question is, how do I get my house ready for sale? Guess what? How much stuff in your house may affect how your house sells or how much someone's willing to pay for it. And then the last one is, how am I physically going to manage a move? If you moved 50 years ago, who moved you? Family, friends, right? How'd you pay them? I was going to say, I know this is Mennonite. Anybody pay them with pizza and beer? How many of your friends today are going to move you for pizza and beer? How many of your kids are going to move you for pizza and beer? Some of you will. Some of you will. A lot of us have kids out of state. Yeah. And a lot of them are working 2 jobs or they're working late and they got kids that are in sports and stuff. They don't have time to do this whole process, which could take weeks or months. So anyway, dealing with stuff is part of every one of those processes. So we're going to talk about the first 2 today. How many people actually think downsizing and decluttering could be fun? Let's just get those hands up here waving. Oh gosh, we do have, this table here. Okay, we'll hire all of you and the lady in the back there. Most people don't think it's fun. How many people think it would be fun if you had to declutter somebody else's stuff? Could you be successful? We got my team in the back is waving their hands. Yeah. Most people, 90% of people are going to say they don't want to do it. And it gets bigger and bigger in our heads as we delay. Know that too many people Too many people postpone a really carefree retirement lifestyle because they think they have to touch all their stuff first. Too many people postpone a really happy retirement because in their head they can't actually proceed until they touch all their stuff first. I've had a couple that this woman, she became a widow young, had a daughter in California, had preschoolers. She'd fly out to see her. Mom was staying at home with the babies. And she kept saying, Mom, why don't you move out here with us? And you know what Mom kept saying? I got too much stuff in the basement. I talked to a gentleman who wanted to play golf every day. He wanted to move into a golf community. And I said, then go. Can you afford it? Yeah. You know where it is? Yeah. I said, then why aren't you there? You could be playing golf every day. Oh, they got to the garage. How many of you are on a waiting list and have gotten a call from Jana who said, hey, we have a perfect place for you. And you said, oh, I'm not ready yet. I haven't dealt with my stuff. Do you know that's the number one reason why people don't move here? She's ready. Okay, got one here that's ready. Number one reason, nationwide, why we as a population don't move to the places where we've already put down our names on a waiting list, where we've had to write a check to say, put me on here. We've come and tried the food. We've seen the activities. We said, this is where I want to be. Oh my gosh, I could see myself living here. I can't wait to get here. And yet, most people who sign up will never move because of their stuff. How sad is that? Our stuff, which by the way has no feelings, that guilt that you're feeling about getting rid of your grandmother's piece or your mom's piece, that piece does not care. It doesn't care. It doesn't have any feelings. That's the conversation that's between your head and your heart. That's the problem. It's not the stuff. It's how we feel about the stuff. And we already know that mess causes stress. So we're letting something that's already stressing us out now control our life and stand between us and where we want to be. Is that a big enough why to start dealing with it? Because I can tell you, I'm like those people who quit smoking. I can tell you that when you get rid of your stuff, on the other side of the stuff is my cottage in Ireland where there's now 300 baby lambs frolicking in the meadows around my cottage. That was worth the pain of getting rid of the stuff. And honestly, once I started getting rid of it, it became addictive. You start doing one room, you start doing a drawer, all of a sudden, wow, this feels better. You start doing the whole thing. Now it's like, throw it out. It really does change your life. Know that just identifying your treasures, going room by room, and when we're working with people and preparing them to move, this is what I ask them to do. Go room by room and identify those things that you love. Sometimes I'll give out little Post-it packs, and I'll send people home to do it. Most people come back the next week and they haven't done it yet. And I go, why? I gave you 45 of them. And they go, well, I want to clean up first. I said, no, don't clean up first. Just find the things you love. And there was a couple, I met them up at community at Rock Hill. They'd been on the waiting list for 5 years. They came to the class, and and the folks up there said they're never going to move in. The issues with their stuff is just eating them up. So I gave them each a packet of stickers, 2 different colors, and I said, go home, each of you separately, go room by room and put a sticker on everything that you love so that we can figure out how much space you're going to need, or what's going to fit. They came back the next week and they ran up to the podium. I'm still setting up. He said, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. You won't believe what happened. And I said, you bought more stickers? He goes, no. I said, you look like you're proud of yourself. He goes, I am. I said, so you didn't use all of yours, but she did? Nope. And I said, okay, I give up. And he goes, we have 0 stickers. And I said, what are you talking about? We don't love anything in our house. He said, we bought our house, we've been in there for 50 years. It came with some furniture in it, had been a family member's. We added used furniture. That's all we ever bought. Everything looks crappy, is what he said. We've decided we're going to move, and we're not taking any of it. We want you to come and have the auction, clean out the house. We're going to go buy new. We're ready to move. And I was like, oh my gosh. They've been thinking each other was having the problem with this stuff. They never talked about it. So I'm going to encourage you to go home and go room by room with a tablet and write down, if you were going to move in a few weeks, what would you want to take with you? You might be surprised that they are not quite as precious as you thought they were. I'm giving you permission, if you look into a room or a basement or something else and you say, I don't know that there's anything in here that I want, that you can close the door and say, done. Isn't that a nice idea? People go, oh, that would be nice if I could. And I said, well, you can. Because if all we're doing is looking for the treasures of what would I extract out for me to downsize, know that we'll help you find homes for everything else. How about that? Anybody know Marie Kondo, the one who wrote the book, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up? I'm seeing some nods. She said you touch everything in your house and you pick it up and you look at it and go, wow, does this bring me joy? And if it does, then maybe you keep it. If not, you sell it or donate it or trash it. I say Marie Kondo, who's made, I have to say, hundreds of millions of dollars more than I have, but I think that's great if you're 40 and you don't own anything. It's not so good if you're 60 or 70 or 80s and you've been in your house for 20 or 30 or 50 years and you have a ton of stuff. Folks, we're going to die before we touch it all. Now, young marketing people can't say that to us, but because we're all friends here, I can say that. We're on the same thing. Too many people are going to die before they touch everything in their house. Yeah.
Why are storage places so popular, and why are there so many of them? They keep showing up more and more.
They do. In fact, there was a CEO of a senior living community, not in our area, it was in central Pennsylvania, who told me, I used to give talks when he would open new communities. And he said, you know what, I have a business opportunity. When we finish today, I want to talk to you about it. And I'm like, wow, this could be very cool. We're going to, I don't know, we could build another community. And he said, storage units. I said, what? He said, storage units. They're everywhere. You make a ton of money. So he said, everybody who moves in, brings too much stuff. We just tell them they can put in the storage unit and then they pay for it every month. And I go, that's unethical. My business is to get people not to do that, because why are you spending $2,000 a year on stuff that isn't even worth $2,000? And then it's going to keep going because nobody empties them, right? I'm giving you permission to say, I don't want any of it, and close the door. So what do we do with it? How to get started? Let's talk about it. We do space planning. I've been doing it for every one of my moves for the last 50 years. Graph paper, remember graph paper? Would plot out the room, 1 square equals a foot, you know, and then would cut out little furniture pieces and move it around. We now do that for folks. We do it on the computer. We blow up the room. And then we measure your furniture, make that on the computer, but we do an overlay system where you can move the pieces around. They're really, really cool. Folks love them. Some people that aren't even on the plan to move will start to do them. You might say, well, where do I get a floor plan? I'm glad you asked. If you tell Jonna that you want to take a tour, she'll give you a packet with all kinds of floor plans in it. And you can look at that and go, okay, if I was moving, I think I'd like something about this size, about this many bedrooms, and let's see what fits. Because all you really need to do to start thinking about your stuff is to say, I need my why. So my why is, I'm only going to take as much stuff as going to fit, right? So I have this much stuff. I find out that this much stuff fits in an apartment. So now, that was a really, really fast way of saying all of this stuff needs a new home. You don't have to touch it all. It's really a slick process. Floor plans can do it. How do you do it? You go identify your big things first. Take Post-it notes if you want to. I get people saying, my kids are like, what's going on? Mom's got Post-it notes all over the house. Tell them that's the stuff that you can't touch yet. Everything else is free game. Fair game, if you want it. How about that? You want to look at the functional stuff first? I need a bed. I need a table and chairs. And then you want to look at the emotional things too. If you have room for it, maybe you bring that sideboard that was your grandmother's. Guess what? That sideboard was in a dining room. Isn't it pretty? Do you know that it's okay to take china out of it and put photo albums and pillows for the sofa bed in there? Guess what? It doesn't know it was a dining room hut. You can put whatever you want in there. You can put grandkids' toys or DVDs. Anybody still got DVDs? That's a whole nother conversation. You figure out, you look at these things, you figure out what fits on the floor plan. Next thing, you look at the little stuff. So you're going to look at your pieces. You might find some tables, like a sofa table that just has 4 legs. It sits nicely under your painting in your foyer or something. And you can put a TV on top of it, which is great. But you also have the base of your china cabinet, which is the same size, same footprint, but it has what? Drawers and cabinets. It holds stuff. So if you're a person that wants to take some stuff, which one do you take? The one that holds stuff. You might have an end table for your bed that has 3 drawers in it. You might have another one that just has 1 small drawer and 4 legs. Depends on who you are. How much stuff do you want? There's ways to do that. So you want to look at the things that you want to hold on to. Do they hold stuff? Maybe you empty it out. I don't want anything that's in it. Great. You take it out. What do you want to put in that maybe doesn't have another place? Anybody have a linen closet that looks like that? If everybody says no, then I'm going to say liar, liar, pants on fire, because I've been in 1,000 of them. Mine looked mismatched. How about the art that just every time somebody gave you something, you just found another spot on the wall, and now your walls are really full? Especially if you said, if the kids got you something. My mom had this with eggs. Her best friend gave her this glass egg that had a flower in it, and she loved it. Did she love it because it was an egg or because Jeannie gave it to her? Because Jeannie gave it to her. But what did we decide? For the mom who has everything. Every Mother's Day and birthday and Christmas, we were buying her eggs. She finally said, enough of the eggs. I don't want these eggs. I don't know, why are you giving me eggs? Do you have things that people have bought you because they thought you really liked that and it was kind of easy to buy? It doesn't mean you have to keep them all. Do you have dishes that get chipped? I have one daughter who, at 2 years old, could walk through Macy's and have her hands behind her back and go, oh, Mommy, in the china department. Oh, Mommy's so pretty. Daughter number 2, I don't know, I thought I lost my parenting skills. She went through like a bull in a china factory. It's like, oh my gosh. Still today, she's the one, if she takes something out of the dishwasher, clanks the edge of the counter, chip in the top. I'm like, how do you do that? Do you have chipped dishes that don't match anything? You probably do. I got rid of all mine. You know where I went? Home Goods. You like Home Goods? Oh, my favorite place. All kinds of pretty dishes. Go buy yourself something new. And then get it all where it matches. And only buy 6 place settings, by the way. Know that identifying your small places, your small pieces that are important to you, you got to try to do the same thing too. It's all in relative to whatever else is there. That's a really important thing. I helped a lady, the very first person who was pretty high up on the hoarding scale that I had helped personally. She had 8, the tiny dining room, 8 storage pieces in this dining room. I could barely get in to sit at the table with her. And we emptied them all. And everything I said, I put on the table. Do you like it? Do you love it? Or you want to let it go? And she'd say, I love it. So then I put it over here and I said, do you love it as much as this thing is already in the love pile? Oh, no, not as much as that. I said, okay, do you like it? Well, I guess I don't love it. I like it. Do you like it, or would you rather have it make you some money? Oh, have it make me some money. So it's all in comparison. Same thing on your floor plan. Which pieces of furniture do you love? You might have a bunch. You might say there's 2 or 3 sofas or chairs, a couple different tables you could use. You're going to love the one that fits. If you have a sofa, by the way, you've never sat on, and that's why you're going to take it, but it's not comfortable, don't take it. Let somebody else take it. All right, dealing with leftovers. So this part up here is the how do you figure out really fast what's important to you. You either love it or you don't love it. It's either functional or it's not functional. I brought a drafting table when I downsized. It's white, it's melamine. It's not my prettiest piece of furniture, but I like to watercolor paint. And I haven't had a place other than the dining room table forever, which I didn't like to paint on. So I brought it with me because I can paint. Is there something you want to do that has a piece of furniture that will help you do it? If it is, then bring it. that goes onto your favorites list because it's something that you might want to have that you can do for yourself. So once you know what you want to keep, big things have to fit on a floor plan. Small things have to fit in either the closets or the furniture pieces you brought. Pretty simple. It's a math problem here. But after that, now you have this whole rest of this house full of stuff, and you're going, what the heck do I do now? So where do most of us hope that our unwanted treasures will go?
No.
Good answer for Karen Share. What else? Where do most of us want it to go?
Your family.
Oh, there you go. Bingo. Our family. Honey, guess what? I have been saving this for you, darling, for 30 years because I know back in 1972 you told me you loved it, right? You always loved it. And I know, by the way, I'm pretty sure you said when you were going to college that you were going to need a sofa someday, and I've been saving this one, and it's ready for you now. What's the problem with that logic? Well, she doesn't want it. She probably already bought a sofa, giving up on you ever giving it to her, right? So that means that your family, most likely, is going to have to get rid of what they've got already, which means downsizing themselves, and then come over and figure out how they're going to get it out of your house and get it to their house. Most of them have got too much stuff already. Know that you have to ask what's important. When you have those Post-it notes on your wall, I did this. So not only teach this, but I did this. My daughters came and they said, ooh, that Post-it note on Grandma's oil painting, are you taking that? Yeah. They go, well, if you don't need it, can I have it? Absolutely. You don't give it to them now, but you put their name on the back and say, look, at some point if I don't need it, you can have it. But then you can also say, look, anything in here that doesn't have a Post-it note, sure as if you want it. I know you don't want it, I said. My first move, the big downsize, they kept saying, I said, you want? No. I mean, down in the bay, no. Up in your, no. I said, I didn't even say what it is yet. No, the answer is no. But once I had downsized the big time, and now we did have, you could see the treasures, because they were visible now, they weren't in boxes. Now they started to go, ooh, you know what? I think if you're not using that, I might take that. And so I said, fine. One is a double crock pot, little crock pot, because it's just such a cute idea. Still a cute idea. Never used it. I said, oh, when I'm done with it, she came back to visit. She goes, hey, the little double crock pot's still in the cabinet underneath, up in there. I said, I'm still thinking about how good it's going to be one of these days. I probably should let her take it, right? Just let her take it. So ask what's important. No means no. Be respectful. If you got guilted into keeping things, it didn't feel good. Don't make them do the same thing. Skip the guilt. Guilt does not do anything for any of us. And we all have too much stuff. Know that donation, there's a lot of people who need our stuff. You look how many times you see in the news that a house burned down. I had never thought about it, but somebody told me that. They worked with relief agencies. And they said, well, you know, there's houses burned down all the time. And I go, really? And once she had said that, I started looking at the news that pops up on my emails in the morning. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's houses that are burning down all the time. Or if it's a row house, there may be 5 houses that burn down. And those people have lost everything. You heard the stories in California during the fires. You see some of the TV stars and things that were out there, and they're out there like, oh my gosh, we've lost, you know, we kept our family, we got the dog, but you know, we didn't have underwear. We didn't have shoes. We didn't have a toothbrush. All of a sudden you start to realize how much stuff we have, and when you have nothing, it's really scary. Think of all the women that have to leave in the middle of the night because their home isn't safe. They're dragging their kids with whatever they can carry. There's a lot of people who need your stuff. So if you are feeling a little bit like, well, I really want to I paid $600 for that back in 1968, and I'm pretty sure it's worth $800 today. Wouldn't it be better to say, there's a family that doesn't even have that, and they're sitting on the floor, and you could help them? Wouldn't that feel better? Yeah, and just because it's old doesn't mean it's an antique. How about that? I was like that. And by the way, if you say antique, 90% of the people out there are going to go, ooh, don't want it. You're going to find your tribe. There's some out there that do, but not everybody does. Some things have to be discarded. And by the way, if you have not been taking out the trash for the last 50 years, every week, there's going to be some trash. So don't be offended when somebody comes in and goes, wow, and you think, well, I think I want to sell things in here. Well, you've got 5 boxes of check stubs from 1957. Who's going to buy those? Nobody. And by the way, it costs money now. Because now you have to pay someone to take it in or shred it or whatever. And if you'd have just been throwing them out every week, it would have been pretty cheap. But now it's not. We've been getting quotes this last year. The average quote to empty a house after people move, if they don't want to do an auction, or they're going to have to get it emptied fast, or the kids just say it's getting hall income, $10,000. $10,000 to take things to trash. So we're going to come up with some other options. Know that it is still possible, even though everybody says nobody wants your stuff, it's still possible to do some local sales and auctions. If you talk about local sales, oh no, here's what happened. Anybody like to go to auctions? I did in the past. In COVID, we couldn't do that, could we? Because you couldn't put 200 people shoulder to shoulder in a room, right? So they went to online. Now, there are a lot of auctioneers that are still now reopened in person. Alderfirst is one of my favorite, not too far from here. But a lot of them have got the online auction too. And we're going to talk about that in a minute because we help folks do that so I can talk about the benefits of online auctions. But local sale is also a possibility. Maybe you have been purging as you go. Maybe you didn't keep getting a bigger house. Maybe you've got what you need and that's probably what's going to go with you without a lot left over. But maybe you have a few pieces. So know that one of the fastest, easiest ways to sell something is Facebook Marketplace. And if you don't like to be on Facebook or you aren't sure how to be on Facebook, just talk to anyone who's under 25. They will have the photo taken and uploaded in about 4 minutes, and then your phone will be ringing with people saying, oh, I'll pay you $35 for that. What? Let me give the caveat on this. If you live alone, do not have a stranger come into your house. And by the way, it's a second bedroom upstairs where the chest is, and then you lead them upstairs, and they're between you and the door. That's not a good thing. Make sure that there's people with you. And I always say, too, if you can, get somebody to come in and move things to the garage or the front porch. Lock the door into the house. I know it sounds like I'm being a little alarmist, but you don't know who's coming, right? So lock your door in the house. Make sure there's 2 or 3 people there. A big guy doesn't hurt. And then have them greet the people, make sure that they pay for it and whatever. If it's small things that fit in your car, know that a lot of police stations or community centers, but mostly police stations, will have a swap spots out front with a camera on it right outside the door so that if you pull in there, you can pay, one can pay you and the other can take the products and go. They know they're on camera and the police station's watching. So you're really safe. So know that that's, but a lot of people in this area use Facebook Marketplace very successfully, especially if you don't have a ton of items. That was part of my basement. Probably, I mean, you could walk through it, right? Does anybody have one that looks worse? Somebody please help me out here. You do? Oh, thank you so much.
But it's all my husband's.
Oh, it's always the husband. Oh, yes.
Put the frame on him.
Yeah, I love that. Oh my gosh, I had talked to this couple. They had been coming for weeks. They'd heard me speak off and on for like 2 years. And I'm like, listen, I'm not saying anything different. And I finally said, is it this? She said, it's the stuff. You're right. So it took them like 2 years to say it's the stuff. And he says, but it's, and I said, so the house is full. And she goes, oh my gosh, we just have so much stuff. And he goes, not mine. I said, you don't have stuff? Not mine. And I kept going, okay. And I said, so you don't have anything, it's all your wife's. She goes, oh. I said, you have nothing? She goes, well, what about the garage? And he says, in the barn, in the shed. He goes, you said in the house. Yeah. So I was a stager, real estate stager. I used to decorate empty houses so that they would sell 15 years ago when you had to do that. So I had 50 pieces of cheap art, 25 lamps, 20 sets of bedding, 10 inflatable mattresses, et cetera, plus some stuff from my mom, plus stuff that my kids left when they moved. It was a hot mess. You know, I was busy. We all get busy, right? We didn't worry about why it was there. Yes. Oh my gosh, piano's in the basement. We're gonna have a little prayer session for you. Pianos are hard right now. They're hard. So anyway, that's the kind of stuff that was in there. It's not overly valuable stuff, right? If you're going to do a whole home auction, do you know what sells? You know what sells really great? You guys will be happy. I know it sounds sexist because I did a lot of my house stuff myself, but tools sell like crazy, even old tools. Power tools or not power tools. What else? Something kind of big in your garage. Well, cars do sell. Riding lawnmower, ding, ding, ding. Yeah. Riding lawnmower, snow blowers, metal shelves, plastic shelves. For those, anybody want to have a crying in a corner with me with my clear Waterford crystal? That was $48 a stem. It's boys, bears, and Longabergers. Oh, I know. I sold some Longabergers. Oh, I know. I had my friends sold those. And I finally told them, I said, you know, you're making, I come and go, what's the cheapest thing you've got? Because I just want to support you. But yeah, so the things that are practical are what sell because everybody needs it. They don't need my crystal. They need a lawnmower and a snowblower. So if you have that stuff, it's really good to have. Well, there's Heidi Wiskeman. She is part of our team. She has been in the auction, state liquidation business for 30 years. She works part-time for the online platform that we use and part-time for us. But she's amazing. And what she does, and you'll find in your flyers, you don't have to look at them now, in your folders, there's one folder that says when a move is in your future, and it talks about all the things you have to do in addition to just hiring the mover. And then we have one called the Lowdown on Liquidation. And it talks about this consultation she does. We don't know anybody else who does this, but she'll come out to your house. There's a fee of $350. This is one of our fastest growing products. I paid her myself and said, come out, and she looks at everything you have. I say, open every door, every cabinet, everything you have, and let her look at it, and she's going to come back with a report. If it works for an online auction, she will give you an estimate of what that would cost for setup and everything like that. If it doesn't, or even if it does, she'll give you, say, everything that looks like this, gold, coins, whatever like that, call this person phone number. Anything like this, call this person phone number. So you have a full report with a plan of how you can deal with stuff. But this is her setting up an online auction. We took over a house. The people had moved out, and we went in, and she starts separating it. This is actually from my auction. So I had my Mixmaster. I had a chair of my mom's. Had that really cool table that opened up so you could put seashells and stuff in it, which I'd bought 15 years before and had never put seashells in it. And then I had all my lawn stuff, which wasn't the big stuff. But I said to her, why are you grouping the lawns, all the outside lawn stuff in a big pile? Because you usually separate it. And she goes, what month is this? And I said, November. And she said, what are people not doing now? And I said, lawn work. And she goes, go find your Christmas stuff. So it's 1st of November. My Christmas stuff was spread all out, and it sold like hotcakes because it was November, right? So she did that. That's a recent whole home online auction. The snowblower there, a smaller one for $336. Stein's bottles and Avon for $200. I was shocked. Pagoda, $176. People buy the stuff. Online auctions, which I was slowed on the startup on that, have turned out to be the #1 way nationwide to empty a house the fastest for the least cost and the most payback. It's crazy. 95% on average of the contents of your house will sell. If something doesn't sell, oftentimes there's dealers who are coming to pick up stuff. They'll have a little bit extra room in their trailer. They'll say, can I take the stuff that was free, that didn't sell? We say, yes. That's what they do then. Their credit card, they bid online. They don't come to your house. At the end of the auction, the credit cards are hit, and then they have to sign up for a special window, specific window to pick it up. And they come over about 4 hours, meet at the garage with somebody from the auction team who takes them to their lots that they purchased. They pack it up, and they take it away. That was on my driveway. There was a gentleman, he and his wife had brought my girls' white bunk beds. They were really pretty. And I thought, oh, this is nice. They had little grandbabies that they were raising. And then he comes out with those 10 air mattresses. I was like, oh my gosh. I said, those things are so old. I don't even know if they leak or not. He goes, it's okay. I buy them all the time. I put them in my garage and I inflate them, and if they leak, I patch it. And I have this image of an air mattress hoarder, and I'm feeling instantly bad for the wife, thinking, what's he doing with all these air mattresses in his garage? And so I said, not sure I wanted the answer, what are you doing with 10 air mattresses, can I ask? And he goes, oh. He says, I work with a homeless vet ministry. We get them inflated, and he said, I take them downtown under the bridge. They're sleeping on the rocks and the dirt, and we have an air mattress. Oh, isn't that where you want your 10 air mattresses to go? But I didn't have time. I had 152 lots. That's a lot, by the way. 152 separate bidding piles. I could never in my life have figured out where 152 lots was going to go. But the online auction did it. That's what my house looked like the night after, or the night of the auction when everything got cleared out. It was ready for sale. I was very excited. So, tips for getting motivated to get started. Oh, darn. You didn't think I was going to leave you without a call to action at the end here. Know that if you start dealing with your stuff today, it's going to improve your health. Know that mess causes stress. It really does. Does anybody walk into your house and go, ugh, you see the pile by the door? That used to be me. Ugh, I'd walk in and see the countertop in the kitchen and go, oh my gosh. And then I'd go in the living room and then there's dog toys everywhere and I was like, oh my gosh, where am I going to go where I don't see stuff? And then pretty soon it was like my whole house. Know that it opens up life options once you start dealing with it. If you're one of those that has said, no, I'm not ready yet, know that you could be living with the chef and the housekeeper at a beautiful community if you could separate your brain and your heart from the stuff. Know that it can save you money to spend on life experiences. You probably aren't going to buy a cottage on a sheep farm in Ireland overlooking the sea, but what's your dream look like? And is that stuff standing in the way of getting from where you are to where you want to be? Don't give it that much control. It doesn't deserve it. Time to take control of your life and say, where do I want to be and how do I want to live? And that stuff is no longer going to stand in the way of my getting there. Benefits of doing it now, here's a huge one. Anybody got kids who are scared to death you're going to drop dead tomorrow and leave them in the house? My kids had worked in the business all the years, and they had worked on houses, and they were like, oh my gosh, we thought you were going to die. I said, I was 64. And they go, I know, but people still die. We just didn't want to end up with this house. A huge gift. We hear this all the time. The kids are like, oh my gosh, we're so proud of mom and dad. Isn't that better than, oh my gosh, she died and left me this thing in the next 2 years, the family's fighting, and your spouse is now like, we're not spending one more weekend or one more vacation weekend up at your mom's house cleaning it out. I mean, what do you want your legacy to be? Not that. Know that if you do it now, you have the ability to control what happens to your stuff. So for those of you who've got that strong heart connection and you don't want it to go in a dumpster, you got to figure out what's the treasure today. Because sometimes our treasures look like trash to somebody else. It may be letters from your spouse who's passed. I watched as daughters had trashed all her mom's stuff. 3 daughters did. And she said, I know what they're doing. They're coming in all at the same time because I know I can only watch one of them. And I thought, oh, I'm sure that wasn't it. And then I talked to the daughters. I said, wow, you worked hard. They said, yeah, we came all at the same time because she could only watch one of us. The rest of us filled the dumpster. And you know, on her move day, she said, the only thing that's really precious is in that chest in the second bedroom. And it's got the letters from my husband. It's got the flowers from our wedding. It's got the pictures of this and whatever. And they said, so if you can just put that in another bin, I'm going to unpack that myself. And I said, sure. So I went in there, and the top drawer was empty. And the second drawer was empty. And the third drawer was empty. And she came in, and I said, there's nothing in here. And she cried. So we have to figure out, how do we not have that happen? First of all, you don't want to put your kids in that position to try to figure out what's a treasure to you. How do we do it? Is we figure it out today. And you have a list of things that say, I don't care if I go into skilled nursing. I don't care if I get hit by a car going home today and I end up in skilled nursing for a while. These are my treasures. This stays with me. If somebody has to clean out my house, maybe you get out of skilled care and now you're living in personal care or independent someday, but maybe in the meantime, they sold your house. These are the things that are my treasures. You don't touch these. If they have to, they go in the storage unit or something else. But these are my treasures. You've got to figure it out, and you've got to label it and tell people, because they're not going to know on their own. But know that if you want to keep control over your stuff in your life, you've got to make some decisions today. Know that downsizing is a labor job. Move managers can help with that. That's Maria. She's an awesome sorter. So if you're the one who can't figure out what to keep and not keep, she came in my kitchen with me. Oh my gosh. She's fast. But she doesn't let you. If she says, I say, yes, I want to keep it. She goes, you said you only want one of those. Yep, I like that one. You already have two. Oh, I don't think I do. Yep, you do. They're over here. I said, okay. Just one. And she did. It was fast. And it was easy. It's like ripping a Band-Aid off. Move managers can help you move and unpack. My last two moves, I did no packing. I wasn't even there when they packed. And I did no unpacking. And they know that I'm pretty picky, because I would be the one that used to come at moves on move days, and I'd go in and I'd kind of tweak a little bit here and there, and I don't do that anymore. But I came out and it was done. My closets were organized. My closets were never organized. All my jackets and sweaters were in rainbow color order. I was like, oh my gosh, how cool is this? Kitchen was all organized. Somebody has said to me, how can you find things in the linen closet if someone else unpacks it? I go, well, linen closets aren't very deep. If all your towels are stacked neatly instead of being jammed in, you can actually see it all. My TV and my computers were hooked up. My lamps were all plugged in. The bed was made. That's what move managers do. It's amazing. And you know what? If you didn't work for anything else in your life, you work to make sure that you aren't packing and unpacking yourself for weeks or months. Know that if you move into a smaller apartment too, you don't have room for those 182 boxes or the 82 boxes. It's got to get unpacked quickly, because otherwise you're not going to be able to walk through. That was Judy in a storage unit. They wanted all their cans in the right order. She had them all lined up. Anybody else like their spices alphabetized besides me? I see my peeps here. They'll put your spices in alphabetical order if you got a lot of them. It's nice to have. You just have to tell them. And then there's Heidi. That was the other part of my basement. She actually is hearing impaired. If she comes to your house, she wears 2 hearing aids. She was going to try to watch your face as much, because she does read lips. During COVID, never thought about it. She had a mask on that said, I read lips. Didn't think about all the people who were deaf during COVID couldn't read lips, because we're covered. We have 32 amazing souls that love people. We do believe what we do is as much a ministry as a business. And honestly, I want you to have what I have. I want you to figure out, where do you want to be, and let go of the stuff that's making you feel guilty and making you feel heavy, and say, I want to get on the other side of this. And maybe you're not moving yet. Maybe you're on the waiting list, and it could be a couple of years. You can still start today. You can do everything you have to do other than bring the truck in. You can do the decluttering, the downsizing. You could do floor plans. You could have a state liquidation consultation to see what to do with stuff. Maybe you don't have enough for an auction. Wouldn't that be good news? Yeah, have some folks pick up this stuff, have some folks pick up that, put a few of these things in your car. Maybe it's not a big deal, but it'd be nice to know, wouldn't it? Just a little braggy. I don't say this very often, but since I'm not in the company, I'm talking about the company now. I say it a lot. We are one of only 80 members out of 1,000 nationwide that have A+ accreditation for our processes and how we do it. I've served twice on the National Board of Directors. My daughter this year will be speaking with me at the conference as we teach other people who do what we do. I've been a speaker there 9 times, and I love inspiring people who do what we do to do better. Know that if you are feeling stuck, and you've heard all this today and said, okay, I think I want to do something, but I don't even know where to start, we've got 2 options. We can do a call with you. It's usually Jamie and somebody else on our team, sometimes Heather. They can do a Zoom call with you if you want to just do that, kind of non-committal or not at your house. Say, talk through what kinds of things you're thinking about, where you like to be in your life, and they'll start to give you some guidance of what you could do to get started. And if you say, look, you know what, I think we're ready to start doing something. We probably need to get some floor plans done. Maybe I need to get that assessment done. Then they'll come out, and it's a free visit in your home. Most move managers around the country are doing this, although a lot of them are not doing it free anymore, but we still are. We come out, because we can't coach you without seeing what you got. And everybody's different, and our attachments to our stuff is different. So we come out and spend an hour or so with you, and we talk you through, and then we start to get you started, whatever that may be. Know that we'll eventually put together an estimate if this is all the things, like when you open that, when a move is in your future and you look at all those 8 steps in there, they'll put together an estimate of what it would take if you did nothing to get you from point A to point B. And it'll say how many hours of this and how many hours of that. You can say, look, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. Great. We do as much or as little as you want. Know that when you say, oh, no, we don't have to do that because my daughter's doing all the packing. Know that a lot of times when the daughter shows up for your move, she didn't actually know she was doing all your packing. When you said, can you help me move, she thought she was bringing the Dunkin' Donuts and the midgets for the movers. She didn't know you meant that she was going to get 120 boxes and bubble wrap and paper and tape and labels and do it all. So communication is really important, because it's really sad at the end when the daughter shows up from out of state and everybody's like, okay, we're ready to go, and you haven't done anything yet. And she goes, I didn't know I was supposed to. Maybe you don't have adult kids. Maybe your kids have passed. Maybe you've got nieces and nephews. Maybe your kids live far away. Maybe you've only got siblings. Maybe it's just you. You don't have a lot of people in your support network. Know that we have become adopted sisters and daughters and granddaughters as we help people get from point A to point B. They've helped me. I paid for it twice. I liked it enough the first time, I paid for it again. And honestly, I'm probably going to go another round, which is kind of hard to say. I still have too many clothes and too much china. So I'll pay for some decluttering. Probably not going to move again yet. But I can tell you there's nothing better than figuring out what your dream is, doing the work to get there, and being there. And all this stuff in the middle can be really fast. Most people, if you're going to move into a community, you're given 60 days. We do all of this in 60 days. Some people wish they had 120 days. Well, guess what? As of today, you do. You can start early. Most people we say, start this process 2 years before you think you need to. Oh gosh, really? Yeah. If you don't have a problem, you're going to find out pretty quickly that, yeah, you're in great shape. You don't have to worry about it. But some of you maybe have a little work to do. And there may be some time needed if you don't want to do it fast and jar your system. Maybe you want to take a little time to do it. Then start early. Start early. Because then when you get a call that says, hey, guess what? Good news, something's ready. You can say, we're ready. How soon can I get there? So that's what you want to do. Alrighty. I so appreciate you all coming today. I hope you've learned something. Anybody learn anything today? You got some things you learned? Yes, I hope you go home, find your treasures, figure out what you want to do with what's left over. If you don't know what to do, call Heidi. She'll come out. You're going to love her. And let's get you off of square zero and onto a forward movement. All right. I'm going to hang around. I know the folks here are going to hang around for just a little bit, I think. Did you want to say anything here? We can do some Q&A. We can hang around for Q&A, but you're welcome to